Now, everyone, drink up all you lonely people. Order any tissue you want, but don't give me the bill.
You know what that photo is? That photo is Assange DC. He has a telephone. It's talking to state to tell them about the documents going out.
They contacted
What is he saying? How can he say that? Why? Because it's too loud? What?
Anything you say is broadcast. Because this is, we don't have a right directly because we're not
So, I don't understand what's going on.
If we had gotten my mic and plugged it into here, I don't understand. We have good sound. We're just going to have to go with it. We're saying the sound. We're getting a lot of feedback here. The sound is bad. And everyone can hear me saying that. Yeah. So, but there's nothing, I mean, hopefully it will be better.
Do you want to catch him? You need to take him aside. You need to take him aside. And talk to him and go get your microphone.
I am. I'm gonna go get it now. I'll be right back.
Hello,
Hi, Randy. I'm Carolyn.
Carolyn. How
Yeah,
are you?
Good, good.
Brian.
Brian.
Brian, how are you? You drove up here?
Yep.
You drove?
He drove.
Oh my God! How do you make it all the way up here from North Carolina in 6 hours? Coffee and everything.
Kelly had to be here.
It'd take me 12 hours. Although I do.
Alright, we're still waiting. This guy around the clock, man, he's like out there on the plank. What a great player he is. This is Steve Jones, man. Yeah, you indicated the reason why this piano sounds so good is because Steve Jones tuned it the other night, alright? Had been tuned since Gershwin worked here in 1829.
I turned it off. The computer is what you have to push. The computer is picking up. Yeah, that one. I think
We're gonna change the
It's just a keep it position stand, right? I mean, you could also put it on a chair.
That's tonight's show, folks. Thank you. Please join us next year.
Kelly, even on this table.
Yeah, I might have to.
All right. Vicky, I watch you. Fred Berman. Great job, that's on our show next week. Go ahead and play, man. I'm just like, John, will be on my next one. So I'm going to be on next Friday. Gil's Nelson. I'm still getting his book, folks. I just want to say hello to all the people out there, activists around the world. Alcorn, Seoul, Mexico City, Milan, Rome, Berlin, all of it. There's nothing else going on in the world today except for this, right? So don't be distracted by events that we think are going on. This is about Assange tonight. Hello. Starting in about 10 minutes, folks. If you get a seat, that would be great.
But if we're actually able to, yeah, we're gonna run.
I would put Julian audition tonight. He's like the greatest sense of humor. Seriously. When he gets out of there, he's going to be the headliner because he really does have and they get their drinks, and they can pay for all of this stuff that you guys got, giving us this for purchase of this table. We can sell 400 drinks. I spend all my money coming down here, you know, Fritzy. I took the Amtrak train down here, it was only $39. And I got a soda and a pizza in the cafe car, that was $130. Oh, yeah. It's the whole thing. You know, the function because of that cafe.
It's an unruly crowd so far. Everybody's having fun.
Kelly, is this really sensitive? For sound?
Very, very, very educated.
Yeah, hold on.
And so it's wirelessly connected already? Oh. It's basically wired connected.
Yeah.
Need a longer cable?
I don't know. You know what? I know it's here. Oh, look. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm just
So I think too.
Start getting into the
The cord for this?
Yeah.
So what time do you
Well, this has to go left and
I'll just ask
I do one more. Anyone who wants to get a drink, now is a good time to do it. If you won't have a chance. Now is the time to get some Everclear.
It's to my act. Drink a lot of Everclear.
Sure, I'm not seeing her.
Too short.
But can we sit close to the table?
Yeah, maybe I can. But I can't. So we can leave this on the floor.
That's four
Yeah, but that's what we can do.
That's all, that's what we do.
Do you want to move the chair?
I think we're gonna need to come here, yeah.
Yeah, move the chair.
So like,
Yep. Right back.
Do you want to put a chair there?
almost 5 years. And this week, I set my alarm for 9:30 because I'm going to sleep. And I was just like, 5 o'clock. Why have this phone for 40 years? He's a football player. I always hate her. She says, I woke up that. Then I had a panic attack.
You would be able to hear the case in
So I got up and I just distracted myself. I didn't open another book, so I just went downstairs and started writing and I've done since 5.
But I haven't tried to go over something.
And this is still happening to me. I do. I was diagnosed with
It's really nice. You can't get a picture of that. All right, everybody start to sit down and take good, please. Going to sleep in Manchester. I was looking at what's elements Washington there between Manchester United.
She rejected it. She wants to destroy it. She's panicked. So, just.
All right, let's get somebody else in the front row seat if they want to provide themselves. John, you can sit over there.
Oh, sorry.
All right. You're going to see your name right up. Maybe you should sit.
Yeah, why doesn't Jess sit? I'll stand over here.
All right. Okay. Wonderful. Steve Jones, give him a big round of applause. We got more people coming in, but give yourselves a round of applause, please. Let's let everybody know how many people are in this room. Go ahead, put your hands together. All right. Don't go anywhere, sir. All right, Steve Jones. Finest piano player in Washington, D.C. Unless you want to go to Union player. That's the oldest joke in the world. But people are really saying, oh, put up with it. No, he's the best. Steve Jones. This is our second time together. And it's just been wonderful. Thank you. And you're here for the rest of the evening. And thank you, folks out there. I know there are other things going on in the world tonight. I don't know what's happening. I haven't seen the news. I saw we were going to have this comedy team. They were busy. Jim Sciotto and Jim Acosta. That was one of our acts scheduled tonight, but they were busy. Oh, I tell you something. So let if you're gonna be silent, do it during my act. I don't care anymore. I'm out of the
Don is temporarily retired and is no longer doing this. And giving it over to my sons that be back tonight. They're not in charge. I'm out of the business, all right? So talk to Michael. Another son had to leave this country because of his salon's business. All right, don't make the necessary. I
I did impressions, you know, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I did impressions, I was way back in 75. You know, I did impressions. I started out and I was like, actually, this is my 50-year anniversary in the business. I started in 72, a little place in California, Montclair, California. It was called the Inside Family Pizza. And I would do Jolson tunes there. I sang all these Jolson songs. I had a piano player that played worse than Edith Bunker. It was like she had like 2 mitts on that she played with. That was my 50 years ago, you know? Is that true what they say about Dixie? I was doing all these like, yes. I did all those old impressions back then. I was doing people like Chance Mason, Fred McCoy, the guy with Mike Research. The only person that knows my act that I had back then is Fritzy and Steve. Everyone else, they're all dead. My act's dead. I did Reagan back then. That was I did him. And, he was governor still. No, me, I know. I know those people. I was doing, you know, all you master hitters of George C. Scott, Jack Nicholson. I did Jack Nicholson and voices like that, right? And then in '80, I got political red button says, get out of Raspberry within the Marine. He says, get out of here and go to New York. I went to New York and I got political. And next thing you know, I met Bill Kunstler, and Bill Kunstler said, yeah, you got to use your act to try to make social change. And I went on the Tonight Show in '84. One time on the Tonight Show. It was so great. I'll tell you that story later. I was doing really well back there. I don't want to get into it because tonight I'm really being the Ed Sullivan. We have so many performers tonight. It's like Jerry Lewis telephoners. Like we have so many performers and speakers, although Katie Halper could not make it because and she's going to explain. We have a video from her, also from Roger Waters, the video that we're going to close the show with. So we have a lot of performers. And another person that couldn't make it is Angela Richter. Say hello to her wherever she is right now. She has family in Kiev or Kiev or, you know, I used to say Kiev when I was a young man. So I don't know how to pronounce English shit, right? It's the worst stuff, Kiev. You need to like it. It was like cock, that stuff they sell in Somalia. Right. I mean, 800,000 barrels of it to drink it all to get like a 1 second buzz. So I did cocaine instead back then, so I could have a lot of dental work when I hit 60. All right. Anders Lee is here tonight. Did the new father show up? The new mother show up? Oh, that's fantastic. Eleanor Lee. Just Eleanor Lee, baby made 3. We're happy in there. Blue heaven. I turned right. And they're happy in there. Blue heaven. All right. What's the baby's name? Huh? Lucian. Oh, that's great. That's a wonderful name.
You have to say that regardless of what
Whatever. And I'm definitely not going to call you Emma Goldman. Okay? we did an event a couple weeks ago, and I was completely wiped out. She got the same politics, but it's not the same person. The same initials. Who said that? Naomi said that, right? How did you know she had the same initials? All right, so look, a lot of us have different views on what's going on in the world today. There's wars going on in Eastern Europe, there's wars going on in Yemen, there's wars going on, attempted coups in Venezuela, Iran, and all that. But today we are united for one reason. We are on the same page, all of us here. The same paragraph, the same sentence, the same exclamation mark, right? We're Julian Assange. That's what we are. And to come up first, we've been at our last 2 events in DC. Last time we could have done it in October, remember? Like the day, the event was 25 below outside, and we had 22. That was like a spontaneous thing I wanted to do. But to bring up my original speaker, I asked first to be a speaker, and she said, yes. It was 3 weeks ago. And she said, yes, I'll be there. And she is, last time I had seen her was at the sentencing of Daniel Hale. and she spoke there. And so did this gentleman that's going to introduce her, but make a few remarks. But they're both recipients of the prestigious Sam Adams Award. Both of them were whistleblowers. And did Craig Murray give you your
Yes.
award?
He
All right.
flew all the way from the UK to
Yeah, right. Then he went behind American University.
Yeah.
All this stuff, and I-
Yeah.
All right, so, he was a whistleblower. He's a great author. He's a host of a radio show. He does a million podcasts and never spares himself when it comes to events like today and in support of Jeffrey Sterling, in support of all these whistleblowers, Thomas Drake, no matter who it is, he's there. Would you please give a big round of applause to the man who's going to introduce his fellow Sam Adams awardee, Mr. John Kiriakou.
So on the way over here, I was driving, I saw a sign and it said, "Talking dog for sale, $20. What in the world? So I pulled over and I went to this house. I said, "I saw your sign out front that said you have a talking dog for sale." The guy said, "Yeah, you want to see it?" I said, "Yeah." So he brings this dog out. I bend over and I said to the dog, "Hi." The dog says, "Hi." I said, "It does talk." And I said, "Well, tell me a little bit about yourself." And he said, "I used to work at the CIA." I said, "I did too." "Where did you work?" He said, "I was in operations." I said, "I was in operations too." I said, "What exactly did you do?" And he said, "Well, since I'm a dog, they would send me into these meetings, like with Kim Jong-un. And he thought since I was a dog, he could speak freely around me. I would listen, and then I would come out and tell my handler what he said. And before that, they had me near Bin Laden. I would listen to what he was saying, and I would report back." So I said to this guy, I said, $20, I'll take the dog. He said, "Honestly, I'll give him to you for 15. He ain't done none of that shit." I got a deal. It's in my car. That's like the only joke that I know. It's the only joke I know. But really the reason I'm here is to talk about my good friend, Jessalyn Raydown. I met Jessalyn in January of 2012, about 4 days, I think, after my arrest. I was laying in bed, contemplating the various ways I could kill myself that day, and a friend of mine called me, and he said, "Hey, there's an article about you on the front page of the Post," which was the reason that I was thinking of killing myself. And it mentions this woman, and she sounds really supportive. You should call her. Well, it was like 6:30 in the morning, but I was so desperate. I picked up the phone, and I called Jessalyn. And sure enough, she answered the phone, because she's at her desk at 6:30 in the morning. And I said, "Jessalyn, you don't know me, but my name is John Kiriakou." And she said, "Oh, thank God you called. I've been hoping for days you would call." And I said, "I really, really need help." So she said, "Come to my office. I think you told me to come at 10. So I got dressed and I went to the office. I was there for about an hour and a half, along with Kathleen McClellan, her partner and deputy. And they agreed to help me. The first people who had agreed to help me and not charge me $1,150,000 retainer. A real number, by the way. And so, it was Jessalyn who, as I was walking out of the office that day, told me that I was a whistleblower. It never occurred to me that I might be a whistleblower. In fact, I said to her, "Well, thanks so much for taking my case, because I know that you only work with whistleblowers." And she said, "You are a whistleblower." I said, "I'm not. I'm just a guy who just said something." And she said that there is a legal definition of whistleblowing, that it's bringing to light any evidence of waste, fraud, abuse, illegality, or threats to the public health or public safety. And she said, "You're the poster boy for whistleblowers." It never occurred to me. But what she inspired me to do that day was to begin research that would become my life, really. Before I ever met Tom Drake, I knew every detail of the case of Tom Drake. I followed intimately developments in Julian Assange's case. I went back and read everything there possibly was to read about Jeffrey Sterling and his case. I became friendly, thanks to Jess, with Daniel Hale and studied his case as well. So, so many of us get coverage. Articles are written, people mention us in interviews. The one we should be mentioning is Jessalyn Rada, because Jessalyn is the one that, in Tom Drake's case, essentially won his case for him. In the case of Daniel Hale, ensured that Daniel didn't do something that couldn't be undone. The same with me. All of us owe where we are today to Jessalyn Rada. She has a lot of important things to say, so I won't take any more time. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, an esteemed whistleblower in her own right, Jessalyn Rada.
A little more vertically challenged than your prior speakers. It's so amazing to see everyone. This is like the first social thing I've done in years. But I just got my 4th jab. I'm immunocompromised. So again, I've just been living the hermit life, working from home. So it's amazing to see you all here. And unlike John, I'm going to read, I was writing out stuff I wanted to say, and there's so much to say about Julian and about the other whistleblowers right now who are in jail, have gone to jail, or are facing jail because of this law. So forgive me for reading this, but this is on behalf of me and Kathleen. As attorneys representing literally dozens of whistleblowers who've been investigated and prosecuted under the Espionage Act, we have long cautioned that the war on whistleblowers is really a backdoor way of going after journalists. And I have said that over and over and over again over the past decade. And that warning, unfortunately, was borne out when the US brought criminal charges against Julian Assange for normal journalistic activity, for investigating government wrongdoing, for cultivating sources, and for encouraging people to use encryption. However, now we have proof that the situation was far more problematic and far more sinister than just criminalizing protected First Amendment activity that journalists normally do. The CIA discussed how to kidnap or assassinate Julian Assange, which was all the more audacious because he had been granted humanitarian asylum precisely because he had valid fears of persecution based on his political opinion. Even more alarming, the CIA had also discussed how to go after WikiLeaks contacts. So that includes a number of people in this room. That includes mainstream newspapers and journalists, American and foreign elected officials, multiple attorneys here in the US and abroad in a number of other countries. And we have been deemed valid targets for electronic surveillance and in-person espionage. So to me, it's a dystopian irony that WikiLeaks first gained widespread notoriety for publishing a video collateral murder that depicted a US helicopter gunning down 2 journalists, only now for the CIA to later plan to intentionally assassinate the journalist behind that particular release. Unbelievable. And as an attorney who has been in the embassy a number of times, Julian was the first person to always warn me that we're being taped. And, even when I went to the restroom, he would say, don't use one here, go downstairs, go out of the embassy, because you're going to be recorded in the bathroom, which is just shows a level of just overkill. We would talk in like a closeted little portion of the embassy just to try to be away from what at some point surely became a completely mic'd up trap for him. For me, and again, this battle's been going on since 2010 when Thomas Drake, who was an NSA whistleblower, became the first person indicted under the Espionage Act in 40 years. And it had huge implications for both national security, whistleblowing, and for investigative journalism. And even though, as Randy mentioned, Tom's case completely collapsed due to government overreach and misconduct, the Espionage Act has become the go-to law for threatening and prosecuting whistleblowers and media sources. The Obama administration prosecuted more whistleblowers under the Espionage Act than any other administration in history. And no one suffered more than Chelsea Manning, whose disclosures, WikiLeaks, 5 WikiLeaks, ended up just evidencing massive deception by the US government and war crimes in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And Manning was branded a traitor and held in inhumane, torturous conditions in Quantico before being convicted of any crime and sentenced to 35 years in prison. And Manning's treatment laid bare the extreme outer bounds of how far the US government would go to kill reporting that contradicted what the US government was telling the public, or even more verboten, journalism that exposed crimes committed by the US government. US government officials did not hesitate in condemning future whistleblowers as traitors. So when NSA whistleblower Ed Snowden was forced into exile after exposing the NSA's massive spying, he received multiple death threats, and one former CIA director called for him to be hanged. While Manning suffered behind bars, in 2012, the Obama administration started a public relations campaign to support its expansion of the drone program. And CIA Director Brennan gave a speech making the case for drones, describing them as a legal tool that operated with surgical precision. In 2014, lawsuits forced the release of email, basically, supposedly the rationale for drone strikes, and it revealed this stunningly broad view of executive power that permitted the killing of anyone on the planet, including American citizens who were droned, if the president deemed them a threat. And thanks to whistleblowers and journalism, the public has since learned that drone strikes are hardly surgical. In August in 2021, Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, and a US drone strike in Afghanistan annihilated a family. The government initially claimed the strike had stopped a terrorist attack, but after investigative journalists challenged that view, the government was forced to acknowledge its mistake. And our client, Air Force veteran Daniel Hale, who revealed years earlier that the US government routinely underreported civilian casualties, recently began serving a 45-month sentence for telling the public what the government did not want them to know. For the first time ever, the judge characterized Daniel as a whistleblower a word that had been verboten in US courts. But even the judge characterized what Daniel did as whistleblowing and just said he went about it in the wrong way by going to the media because he could have used internal channels. All of those internal channels are incredibly fraught and broken if they exist at all. Right now, a number of them are completely closed, like the Merit System Protection Board. Of one of his last acts in office, Obama commendably commuted Manning's prison sentence, but the Obama administration left the legal support for the assassination program in place at the Justice Department. And Obama also left open the secret grand jury investigation targeting Julian Assange, which began basically back in 2010, 2011. The Trump administration, meanwhile with Obama, look forward, not backwards. They were like, you created all this dangerous precedent, and if some president comes into office, someone we don't trust, supposedly Obama trusts me, this could turn into just a maniacal monstrosity. And then, of course, Trump was elected, and he quickened the pace of Espionage Act prosecutions and ratcheted up the rhetoric, condemning the media, and ended up going after 3 times as many whistleblowers as Obama had. And he had already gone after a record number. So after WikiLeaks published another series of leaks in 2017, the CIA dubbed WikiLeaks a non-state hostile foreign intelligence service, which I'm sure John can translate as like spook speak, or making him, turning him into, transmogrifying him into a terrorist for targeting. And the Trump administration took the extraordinary step that even Holder and Obama didn't take of indicting him for engaging in conduct, again, that national security journalists in this country engage in on a daily basis. And unfortunately, because Julian is not as popular as he has been in past years, people in the mainstream media you hear he's not a journalist, he's not a real journalist. All of that is a red herring, because every journalist in this country and in every country is now at risk of being prosecuted for espionage or something similar if they are accused of violating another country's so-called secrecy laws. So our reporters, or any reporters from the West who are reporting in conflict regions, or reporting in Russia or China, or getting close to North Korea, anything like that, all those people are now at risk of being thrown in jail for violating those countries' secrecy laws. It's horrible precedent. And unfortunately, kidnapping and assassinating Assange, do I need to speed it up? Am I
Yes, just a little bit.
Sorry.
No, you don't have to speed it up.
Okay.
Slow it down.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, don't slow it down.
Sorry. I mean, really, it almost sounds tinfoil hat-ish when I'm like, yeah, journalists are at risk. The journalists could be prosecuted based on this precedent. And people are like, you're exaggerating. That couldn't really happen. But now, look, national security whistleblowers are foundational and integral to investigative journalism. But just as important are people who publish that information, people who edit that information, people who work in the press. And so this decade-long war on whistleblowers now it is completely subject to the Espionage Act. People can be tried in secret. The idea that Julian, if extradited, would get some kind of due process over here is a joke. As John Kiriakou can tell you, when you're tried under the Espionage Act, it is a strict liability crime. You can't raise a defense. You either made a disclosure or you didn't, your intent, whether you leaked secrets to an enemy nation for profit or leaked information in the public interest to a journalist, that is a distinction without a difference. All the Espionage Act says is if you disclose information without the government's permission, even if it showed U.S. crimes, you are guilty of violating the Espionage Act. Espionage. Even actual spies like Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen did not get prosecuted under the Espionage Act. It is the most inflammatory. Just getting charged with that can tinge you for life. Even if you win, you lose. Even if the charges are dropped, it wrecks your life. Thomas Drake is still working in an Apple store, still working even though he's retirement age, because defending against the government wipes you out completely financially and you can never recover. So even when you win, even in Daniel's case, as horrible as the outcome was, the government was seeking 50 years on him. And so as horrible as 45 months is, Daniel is a young man, he will get out, he will still have a life in front of him. But again, that's not enough for the government. They have put him in a communications management unit. There are only 2 in the country, and those are called Little Gitmo, because they literally cut off any communications, even with his attorneys. We are trying to work on a pardon petition for Daniel. I know it sounds surreal. We're in the US. How can you cut off someone's communication with attorneys? Well, ask Julian Assange. His communications with attorneys were recorded. Everything in that embassy, including meetings with counsel, his own inner circle of attorneys and attorneys around the world. All of that is compromised. Would they ever be able to actually use that at trial here in the US? Normally that stuff would be excluded. But again, that's why he can't be extradited. There is no way he or anyone, Assange or anyone else, can get a fair shake under the Espionage Act. Even as Daniel's attorney, I was shut out of the courtroom for Daniel, and it wasn't even during a classified proceeding. I said, how can you do that? Is this a COVID restriction? And they were like, no, you just can't go in. I said, I'm one of the counsel of record. They're like, nope. And there was nothing I could do. And normally I would talk to the media about it and tell them about this outrage, but no media covered Daniel's case. Not even the alternative media, like people like The Intercept, which is supposed to be God's gift to adversarial media, didn't cover barely covered his case and didn't send anyone to the sentencing, which was just appalling. Appalling. And The Intercept has thrown so many whistleblowers under the bus at this point. I mean, Terry Albury and Reality Winner and Daniel Hale had all gone to jail because of sloppy reporting. And I know my own funding has been cut because, I got called by a team of attorneys because I was bad-mouthing Jeremy Scahill, who apparently is not man enough to pick up a phone and call me like a grown-ass adult. Putting that aside. Putting that aside, the main issue is Assange, Daniel Hale, anyone and everyone who faces prosecution under the Espionage Act is facing a David versus Goliath struggle that they are fighting blindfolded with their hands tied behind their back. Julian cannot be extradited here. There is no way he can get a fair shake, and the US completely lied when it said he would have all due process rights in the US. There is no due process under the Espionage Act. Thank you guys so much.
All right, Jesslyn Radak, give her a big round of applause. All right. How you doing, Steve? All right, I'm gonna play some music for my next. We have one of our speakers who is an amazing activist, an amazing journalist, and an amazing musician. And her name is not typical. All right. Eleanor Goldfield, give her a big round of applause.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Party foul. But don't make it a hard act to swallow.
Oh, no, no.
I'm no virtuoso like it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're here. Hello. I've been tasked with livening shit up. Cool, Randy. As I'm gonna do a humble brag here for a second. As Tom Morello once told me, you should never open up with your own song. But I think if you're Tom Morello, you can at this point. So feel free to sing along or don't. I'm not gonna fault you for it, but I think a lot of you will know this song, and I'd like to dedicate it to everyone who continues to fight for Assange and for all of the intersecting movements and issues that are highlighted in his case. I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand here, you can sit down, but I won't back down. I'll stand my ground. No one can turn me around. Gonna keep this world from dragging us down. Gonna stand my ground. And I won't back down. Ain't no easy way out there. I'll stand my ground. And I won't back down. Well, I know it's right, that I got just one life. In a world that keeps on pushing us around, I'm gonna stand my ground. And I won't back down. Ain't no easy way out there. Stand my ground. I won't back down. I won't back down. This next song is mine. And you can find it, shameless self-promotion, for sale on my website at artkillingapathy.com in digital form and vinyl. Somebody asked me the other day if I have CDs, and I'm like, what? This is 1995? No, I have the way it sounds good on vinyl. For you, like, super nerds out there, it was actually recorded analog, so it counts. But yeah, for those who like it digital, it's there too. pile of bricks in my feet. Building while searching for something to see.
She's got a great voice.
Who's got time to slip this song out of my mind? You see hours and days and the days we come to this place. While the world's on fire, I'm gonna stand where it burns. Build this higher, I'm gonna stand where it burns. What does it take to stand right here where it burns? Now it's past, we're fast forwarding. Help is a fire, I can feel this burning night. What are you here for? The time and the cue for our time. Oh, the world's on fire, but I'm gonna stay where it burns. Build this fire, I'm gonna stay where it burns. What will it say? Stand right here where it burns. As long as it takes, I'm gonna stand where it burns. This is my last song, just so Brandon doesn't have to pace her to sing.
I'm loving it, please. I'm gonna bring you back up. No, this is-
This song, please do sing along. This song I'd like to dedicate to the US government. Who's watching anyway. Hi. Hi, Mom. I'll tell all you fascists who made this outcry. 'Cause the people around this world are getting organized around the moon. Hey, all you fascists, you know you're bound to lose. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists, you're bound to lose. You're bound to lose. I'll tell all you fascists you make music rise. People around this world are getting organized. You're bound to lose. Hey, fascists, you know you're bound to lose. Come on, y'all. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists, you're bound to lose. You're bound to lose. People in this world are marching side by side, marching in the streets for a million fascists, and you're bound to lose. Hey, fascists, you know you're bound to lose. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists, you're bound to lose. You're bound to lose. No change can hold the truth now that we've seen your lies. So dance upon your grave and watch those ashes fly. You're bound to lose. Oh, fascists, you know you're bound to lose. Hey,
all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Down, smile. Get hard. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Down, once more. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Hey, all you fascists. Down. All right, how about that? You know the tune already, Steve? She's got copyright to that, all right? All right, Eleanor Goldfield once again. All right, so Eleanor, she's been on Redacted. I gotta tell you, the guy who's coming up next, he booked this show. I mean, seriously. Everybody's been on Redacted tonight. We have 3 of the correspondents. Eleanor has been on there many times. I've been on there a couple of times. And, Lee doesn't, man. He's made this a great comedy show. And he's the host of Redacted Night. He's a great political satirist. I met him in 2011 outside of Goldman Sachs, I think, somewhere there in Occupy Wall Street. And he's really a terrific guy. Would you please welcome the Redacted Tonight host, Lee Camp. What was that? One more time, ready, go! Jesus Christ! I know it's kind of a bummer of a topic of this evening, but still, we gotta have some energy. The revolution needs fucking dancing, all right? It does. And thank you, 3 of you who cheered for that. All right. It's exciting to get us all together for this. This is, as Randy, I think he mentioned, this is the 3rd one. I mean, he puts these all together. He's being ridiculous. I booked it. He puts these all together, and it was the 3rd one I've done. The one in New York City was interesting because there was a guy outside for like an hour and a half outside the theater screaming that Lee Camp's a fraud! Learn the truth about Lee Camp! And he had a sandwich board that said like LeeCampsAfraud.com or something. And I was amazed because I was like, Roger Waters is on the show. Like, Cornel West is here. I'm the least famous guy you could have picked for this. But I went to the website, he had some good stuff. But they've been amazing. The show's been wonderful. We've had a wonderful time, all obviously trying to talk or at least represent a very dark topic. I mean, and I'm a big, this is, I'm gonna talk about other stuff, but this is the one thing I want to say about the Assange topic is, I'm a big proponent for move the debate. I hate the mainstream media will get you caught in a fucking idiot debate inside a tiny little Overton window. Move the debate. Don't discuss whether Julian Assange should be free right now. Discuss maybe whether there should be statues of fucking him all over the place. Have that debate, all right? Have that debate with people. The answer is yes, by the way. Have that debate. Don't have the debate as to whether he should be free. That's fucking, of course he should be free. He never should have been in prison at all. There should be statues of him. And by the way, we have some empty statue spots in this country right now, all over the place. We do. One right here in DC came down. I was thinking, and people, whenever you're arguing about the statues with people, they're like, well, listen, it may not be what you're into, but if statues represent things we should look up to in this country, or our history, or whatever. And I was like, all right, that means statistically speaking, this country has had about 95% more impressive horses than women, apparently.
you didn't laugh at that means you agree, and that's fucked up. Okay? Fucked up. But yes, I did bring some notes because I'm talking about all new stuff, so forgive that. But so right now we're in the middle. You go online right now. I love that everyone apparently is suddenly anti-war, and which I agree with. But where the fuck were you for the past 20 years? We killed 6 million people with the war on terror. That's the latest estimate, by the way. 6 million people. And they're like, well, we gotta care about these other people. We just found out about white people are now in trouble. So that's why it matters now. I put the Ukrainian colors on the flag on my Instagram thumbnail. And now I'm done. I feel like I did my part. I mean, where are they? Fucking. No one's protesting, but there are bombs being dropped in Yemen today. We dropped bombs on Somalia yesterday. Where the fuck is everybody about any of these other causes? It's just the one that Wolf Blitzer told him was okay. Wolf Blitzer said it was good, so now I'm doing it for 8 minutes, and then I'm gonna go back to my Kegel exercise. And then, I don't see anyone with Instagram changing the Instagram thumbnail to the Yemeni flag colors. You don't even know what the colors are. I don't either, but still, I think there's mob in there somewhere. I'm not sure, but no, they suddenly woke up to the fact that there's awful shit going on in the world, and it's like, I'm fine with you being anti-war right now, but be fucking anti-war all the time, all the fucking time, and then I'm all for it. But anyway, I wanted to, actually, I'll pause there. This is for people that don't like my other stuff. Have you ever noticed the only reason we wrap presents is for that 1 second of surprise right as the person opens it? Couldn't we just throw the gift at them? There's a lot of paper. I knew you were giving me a PlayStation, but not at that speed. Look how some of you are laughing, but trying to suppress it. You're like, I can't laugh out loud, I'll just have a seizure right here. But yeah, so I saw some new numbers the other day about our garbage political system. The NBC News did a poll and found out that no more than 40% of the respondents to the poll had a positive view of either of the parties, of either of our corporate-led garbage parties. And I think even that number's inflated, because these people had to already say yes to an NBC News phone poll, which already means they're not very bright. I mean, they're not counting the 2/3 of people who didn't answer the question, but just told the pollster what they could do to themselves if they had the proper genitalia, lubricant, apostrophe, adjustable bed. But you have to burn the bed afterwards, you do. But so those numbers would be much higher. And why is it that way? Why do we have such a garbage system? And it's because it is completely bought out in just an incredible level. The latest election cost $14.4 billion. $14 billion. That's more than the GDP of Mozambique. I looked it up. And they're bringing in money. They have agave mass. They're good for fertility. They do. If I wanted to go for the fun, I would have said that's got to move some units. But I wouldn't do that. But this is an insane amount of money. And it means that our system is owned by the 1%, the richest of the rich. People that have jets and helicopters and ponies for their children to play with and children for their ponies to play with. These are some fucking rich people, and they own our entire system. Because the people will point out that the candidate who spends the most money wins the election in the House something like 90% of the time, and in the Senate something like 80% of the time. But what they never mention with this, which is insane to begin with, but what they never mention is to look beyond that. Of the two corporate parties, the two people that spend the most on every election win 100% of the time. Those two corporate stooges win 100% of the time. Our Senate is only allowed to be filled with corporate puppets. And that side of it can never be discussed. It really never is discussed. This system is incredibly bought out. $14 billion. Sheldon Adelson, who is dead now, I think unrelated,
spent $127 million on one election. I mean, that's more than Prince Andrew spent on the Mylar happy birthday balloons for Jeffrey Epstein in 2016. The balloon said, "You're not old, it's just everyone around you is underage." But it is incredibly bought out, and these people are richer than ever before. I mean, something like $5 trillion has been gained by billionaires since the pandemic began. Just astronomical amount of wealth these billionaires have amassed, and they own everything, and we still act like it's a democracy. We still act like the votes matter. We can't even picture what a $1 trillion is. They've gained trillions of dollars. And I don't think they're good people. I don't know. I just don't feel like they are. I feel like they probably don't spend their Sundays, helping an orphan with no arms tie his shoes. All right. I don't even think they have. I bet they don't recycle. I bet they have the blue bin just to like appear that they recycle, like in their backup kitchen, they probably have the blue bin, but I don't think it's got real stuff in there. I think it's probably like a dead rat and a half-filled, milkshake. And those aren't recyclable. That's a couple of human body parts, maybe. Those aren't recyclable, human body parts. And I should know. I worked a summer in the back of Kid Rock's fashion line. But for the rich, America is based on theft. For the poor, you can go to jail for a decade for stealing a jacket. But for the rich, our system is really based on theft. I mean, fucking Bill Gates stole the Windows operating system from Xerox. So Jeff Bezos steals his workers' lives. It's all stolen. I mean, if you're poor, really, you can get locked away for years for stealing a Big Mac. But if you're rich, you can steal whole countries. I mean, we just went into Hawaii and we were like, this is ours now, but we'll bring you Big Lots. That's fine. We are based on theft in many ways. And how fucked up is that? If you're rich, then you can steal. That's how our system works. If you're rich, you can steal. In order to get good health care, you have to not be sick. In order to get good car insurance, you have to have not been in an accident. In order to get a good job, you have to not look like you need a job. In order to get laid, you have to not look like you desperately need to get laid. This is a backwards system. It's a completely upside down fucking system. You need one of these before. I have a voodoo doll of myself at home that I treat quite well. But I'm gonna wrap this up. But we have a kleptocracy. It's based on theft, and it's amazing the level that it's been captured. It really has been captured. And what Assange did, and what the few truth tellers that are out there do, is reveal to us how this system actually works. And that is why he should be revered. That's why there should be fucking statues to this man. And he showed us the war criminals, and a lot of people like to pretend he only revealed America's crimes. No, he revealed crimes of countries around the world. All right? He and WikiLeaks revealed shit that has gone on in Russia, in China, in Peru, in Australia, in Britain. He was revealing to people what we supposedly need to know in order to have a real democracy or a real election of any kind. We need to be an informed populace, which is what we are the reverse of right fucking now. And so he should be celebrated, and obviously we have to get him free. Thank you guys.
Once again, give it up for Lee Camp. Come on, let's show some. Let's get some energy going in here, folks. I want to go home now. Oh. All right. Okay. Yes, we're gonna keep moving. I'm like the Ed Sullivan. I don't feel much time on bringing up the axe. I don't even do his voice. Next up, no. I'm gonna give you. In 2020, I was watching some of the early presidential forums and debates. Of course, I supported Bernie Sanders back then.
I was a big supporter. I was watching him. He never mentioned a thing about Julian Assange. No. I think, one time, there was one candidate that did, and I started watching her the first two debates. I said, wow, those are some amazing, shocking things that somebody's saying on the stage. And I was telling all my friends, you gotta watch her the next debate. And guess what? They stopped using her. They stopped using her because she was saying things that they didn't want to hear. Wherever MSNBC, CNN, the other candidates, she was making them uncomfortable. She has been a long time, ardent, fervent, consistent supporter of Julian Assange. She has done so much work on behalf of the homeless in this country, for those who are oppressed for many years. I looked her up and I saw all the great work that you've done. She was a presidential candidate, she's a best-selling author, and she is Marianne Williamson. Give her a hand.
Thank you for having me here. I think this is a very sober and sobering night. And so when I ask myself, well, which category are you? Are you the music? No, you have to take a shower with me for that. I'm a comedy, not tonight. My friends tell me I'm funny, but not usually. And a certain kind of nonsense thing, I think is to be discussed tonight. I know there is a lot of, there's a lot of difference of opinion among those on the left about what's going on in Ukraine. But one thing that none of us can deny, regardless where you are on it politically, is the extraordinary display on the part of the Ukrainian people, despite overwhelming odds. It actually does remind me of where we are, not only with Julian Assange, but with the entire system that the camp was discussing, etc. And the thing about it that to me has been so amazing over the last few days, if you take the system in all of its forms, not having to do with the United States versus any other nation, but just the idea of overwhelming force, whether it's military force, economic force, whatever it is, overwhelming force that stands in the way of what many of us feel is the world as it should be. When that overwhelming force was arrayed against the Ukrainian people, once again, put to the side the thoughts about what should have happened in the United States, etc. Just stay with me on what has happened with those people. With the entire world saying to them, you know, guys, just give it up, negotiate now, just give it up, be a neutral country, whatever. You have no chance. And what one person displayed, and what those people have displayed to the entire world, oh, you don't think we can do this? Just watch us. And to have seen over the last few days the way the entire world, regardless of what you think about it politically, the entire world has responded to the fact that those people who theoretically had no chance against these enormous forces arrayed against them. And I think that there's something there for all of us to look at. One more time, we're here talking about Assange. How many times have we gotten together to talk about Julian Assange? And the system is not moving an inch. The system is displaying no interest in talking to us about it. The system is displaying no interest in any way negotiating on the topic or even acknowledging. Lincoln will not acknowledge the topic. The DOJ will not acknowledge the topic. The president will not even acknowledge the topic. And I think at this point, when we get together on nights like this, we should look wherever we can look. And to me tonight, it is the Ukrainians, for people who just keep going. And there's something deeply saddening here. There's something deeply sad. We're here together to talk about Julian Assange one more time, when there is absolutely no sign on the part of the system that there is any interest whatsoever in doing anything other than holding the line as they now hold it. They plan to bring him here, they plan to prosecute him, they clearly have their agreements going on with the British, and if those forces have their way, Julian Assange will spend the rest of his life in prison. But I know for myself tonight, you know, we can talk all we want about being anti-war right now, but there is a war going on. And has been mentioned, we just sold over $1 billion in arms sales to the Saudi Arabians so that they can continue with their genocidal war in Yemen. And as already been mentioned, we bombed Somalia the other day. But in my mind, we're here tonight, arrayed with a topic, arrayed with an interest, arrayed with a concern for a man and what he stands for press freedom. It's like we're living in this country and going, don't you guys get it? Don't you guys get it that if one journalist reveals these kinds of atrocities, reveals these kinds of gratuitous murders, reveals this kind of torture, and the US government can work together with the military in such a way that this kind of secrecy is just kept in place, where they can just classify whatever they don't want us to know. And they just chip away at any sense of political righteousness. Political righteousness means that you can't just classify a document because it's inconvenient for you, for people to know the information. And then when journalists would say, well, what makes a classified document? And they say, well, we can't tell you because it's classified. And journalists continue to be at the Pentagon, and they continue to act like stenographers and just allow it to be. Well, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I have to feel the feelings of the fact that, oh my God, we're here again. Oh my God, we're here one more time. But for me, like I said, no matter what you think of the situation in Ukraine, when I think of some of the bravery that is being displayed, when I think, whether you agree with some of their positions or not, when I think of what is being displayed there on the part of people who are saying to the amazing forces arrayed against them, we will continue, we will continue. And that is exactly what the abolitionists did, and that is exactly what the women suffragettes did, and that is exactly what the civil rights movement did, and that is what exactly people throughout our history and throughout the history of the world have done. They did not stop because overwhelming economic and political forces were arrayed against them. And we are part of a great tradition. And I would say a great tradition not only in this country, but a great tradition throughout time of those who simply continued, those who simply did not stop. And that's what we're doing here tonight. Everybody knew when we came here tonight, it's probably not going to make a difference. We're going to show up one more time for Julian Assange. But what's important is that we show up. And what's important is we're going to show up next time. And we have to believe that there's an accumulation of energy. We have to believe that one person will hear about Julian Assange that maybe has not heard about Julian Assange before. We have to believe that we're going to put something on our social media tonight that we went to an event for Julian Assange, and someday, somewhere, there is someone who says, what's going on with Julian Assange? And that's the way movements operate. They move because one person wakes up, and then another person wakes up, and then that person who woke up wakes up a little bit more. And we're just part of a river. No one of us is all that important. It's a river of energy that's going to just keep going. To me, it's the Ukrainians who are my sort of inspiration tonight. But it's also the Ukrainians tonight that are breaking my heart. Just like my heart is broken for Stella Morris, just like my heart is broken for Julian Assange's children, just like my heart is broken for Julian Assange, just like my heart is broken for his brother, just like my heart is broken for his parents, just like my heart is broken for the Yemenis, just like my heart is broken for the Somalians, just like my heart is broken for everybody who is in prison in this country who should not be there, just as my heart is broken for everybody who cannot afford in this country to pay for the prescription drugs that their doctors have prescribed, just like my heart is broken for all of the injustices in all of the world that I am inspired. I am inspired by all of the people whose hearts have been broken, no more and no less than mine is, and they kept going.
How about the Palestinians and the Venezuelans?
All right,
The first elected to do your hearts broken about.
This is not a political debate here tonight. It's not a political debate tonight. All right?
What about the 14,000?
All right, this is not a political debate tonight. It's not a political debate tonight.
Why did you send weapons to neo-Nazis in the
Oh,
summer?
come on, this is gonna be about Assange, for Christ's sake.
Well, then why don't you spend half an hour talking about mental
Oh,
health?
that's her opinion.
I understand, but it's not on the phone, very divisive. Very divisive.
Ukrainians, I said that at the beginning.
Let's talk about it.
All right, come on, guys, please.
This is not a left, that's such a problem, because we turn upon ourselves, we
Yes.
never get anywhere.
Yes.
It's so by the Israelis and anybody who tells you otherwise. So, I continue to be here, and we all continue to be here. And it's not always fun. And it's particularly not fun when people who agree with you on stuff turn against you. And all of us, I hope, are learning. We have to go much deeper. We have to be far more courageous. We have to stand in a much deeper place within ourselves. And I believe with all my heart that as we continue, there will be opening of freedom, and we will overcome. And I hope with all my heart that it's in time to free children.
Yes. All right. This is about Assange, and I told you in the very beginning that there are divergent points of view on different issues. Everyone thinks that their issue, their belief in it is the correct one, all right? So, but this is the one we all agree on right here tonight. That's what brings us together. He's dying in a fucking prison, so let's focus on him. All right? All right. All right. All right. I understand that. All right. I agree. So what should we do? This is going to be like one of those debates in the South Korean parliament where we start hitting each other. Seriously, on the Thailand? All right, come on. Let's go. Let's move. Everyone's got different points of view. We're not like human beings are all individuals, all right? And they all have their points of view and their different shades. Okay? But we all are on the same page with Julian Assange, all right? And we can all be better informed if Julian Assange is extricated out of that dungeon at Belmarsh. All right? Now I'm going to start doing my impressions of Jenny Cagney from Yankee Doodle Dandy to really make you go to sleep, all right? I'm a kid, I'm Yankee Doodle Dandy. All right. For you, Britzy, it could be. Well, that was nice. Nice to get into a little jazz tonight. Now, someone's probably, you know, they were talking about Julian, but I was visiting him 3 times in 2017. I did it. You don't believe it? You can go to the UC Global website. All right? But when I was there, he told me, when you go to your hotel room at the Z, you go to the room, come back and say, I don't like that room. It reminds me of my dog. You know, and so, okay, then they give you another room. He says, when you go back, they've expected that. You ask again, saying, no, I can't take the view from that window. You get the third. So he knew he was being taped. He knew he was being eavesdropped on. You know, he's smart, one of the smartest, if not individuals I've ever met in my entire life. All right, now people are getting pissed off. We're walking out. But deal with it. We got nothing but comedy from this point on, all right? Until we get Roger Waters and Margie's going to close the show tonight. Make one last statement. But we have 3 comedians, all from Redacted tonight. And they're going to go back to back to back, all right? So it's pure comedy for the next whatever. The 3 acts coming up are all correspondents. They're comedians and correspondents for Redacted tonight. And Naomi Carmani, she did our very first one right here, and she brought down the house, and she's terrific. Would you give her a round of applause? Naomi Carmani.
Keep it going for Randy. Let him hear it.
This is amazing. I've always dreamt as a comedian to come up after a fight about geopolitics in Eastern Ukraine. That was really my dream when I started. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. I mean, yeah, just like what a beautiful night this is. I knew at some point somebody was gonna say something. So, yeah, thank you to those people who spoke their mind, but also thank you, let's give it up for the CIA in the room. I mean, they're always out here. You guys, thanks for coming out. Thank you. Thank you for the reporters from Politico, whatever bad shit they're gonna say about us on Monday. I can't wait to read it. So thank you guys so much. I love DC, right? Are you guys from DC? Make some noise if you're from DC. Yeah, it's cool because a lot of drugs are legal here, right? But in cruel, twisted fate, half the city can't do them because they're security clearance. You just have a State Department employee dreaming of the day he can do CBD. That poor guy. I mean, do you guys really think that the government is worried that people are going to get high in the government and spill government secrets? That side effect of weed, talking. That's not something that happens. I think they're really worried that somebody at the CIA is going to get too high and they're going to start to worry about what other people think of them. And they have access to our thoughts. That's the problem. I get that you can't have people in the DOD smoking weed. That's no good. You can't have a 4-star general thinking about what he said years ago. Geez, I gotta apologize to Stacy. And Afghanistan. Jesus Christ. You can't have a press conference of the Joint Chiefs of Staff end with that's why we need to repel Russia. And by the way, was I being weird? Did anything I say make any sense? I get why it's banned, but maybe people need to smoke weed. People need to chill out in this town. I think people need to chill out in this town. There's a lot of people are moving towards war in this town. The military budget's going to be secure for the next 10 years. It's a sad thing, but I think we need to see the silver lining. 4 out of the 5 top weapons companies, they're run by women. They're run by women. There's female CEOs. Yeah. Yes, queen. Installed by the U.S. regime change operation. Yes, queen. Who knew? All we needed to break the glass ceiling was a surface-to-air cruise missile. Who knew? That's all we needed. Yeah. Every year they run this on the news. They're like, did you know that ladies are running defense contractors? Did you know? And then they play Beyonce. And they're like, yes, ladies. And then they interview Marilyn. Watch one of these segments, and then they interview Marilyn Houston, the CEO of Lockheed Martin. And they're like, how did you do it? How did you make it to where you are? She's like, I had to quiet that voice in my head that said I couldn't do it. And I couldn't take on that next job. And I'm like, yeah, she's listening to that other voice in her head that's saying, kid. Besides, thank you for closing that door. Thank you. I don't want to see the next act. Fuck you guys.
Let me go outside.
U.S. It's a violent place, but we also like our leisure to be violent. True crime podcasts. You guys listen to true crime podcasts? Make some noise if you do. It's not cool to be a lefty that's into murder. I get it, but we all are. We all love it. We all have a PhD in murder. When anybody gets caught, you're just looking at the news. You're like, can't believe that guy didn't know what he was phone saw. Jesus Christ! Come on, get it together, right? And it's true that there are a lot of serial killer documentaries, but not a lot of female serial killer documentaries. And that's because women don't brag, right? That's it, right? I mean, I was watching one of the biggest hitmen of all time. You know how he was caught? He killed like 50 people. Basically, he told everything to an undercover cop at a bar. And the cop was like, I didn't even ask. Like, of course, there are female serial killers. My grandmother, she had 3 husbands who all died of cholera. I'm like, take some pride in your work, Nana. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm gonna go into maybe some non-political stuff we can agree on. Did anybody do Zoom therapy over quarantine? Zoom therapy? Yeah, I see some nods. Yeah, give up for Zoom therapy. It was amazing to see my therapist give up, which that's what she did. She started off really strong. She was like taking notes in a blazer, telling me not to talk to my sister, great therapist. And then 5 months later, she was like sitting in a bathrobe on the couch, yelling at her husband. And then I swear to God, she goes to the microwave, takes a hot bowl of soup out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh. Is what I thought. She better not burn herself. That's what I thought. And then I was just telling my emotions to the inside of a microwave. That's what it was, yeah. And I was like, you know what? I actually feel kind of good now. Because I'm doing way better than that bitch. It's amazing. I have to say, watching my therapist slowly unravel on Zoom, better than Zoloft. Actually, they should prescribe that shit. They should. Yeah. Do you guys remember when recycling was supposed to save the planet? Yeah. And scientists were like, oh no, it's too late. But still, separate it. Separate it. Yeah, I'm glad we got rid of the straws because that was the problem, clearly. Just we need to get rid of straws altogether, right? Why are we so afraid of spilling people? The paper straws, they go limp. I'm like, am I doing this wrong? I'm gonna see who gets that. But there were like 3 women who were like, I get it. It happened last night. Yeah, and then we have these metal straws. I think that's really sending a message to these turtles. Like, we're gonna finish the job next time. You better watch out. Yeah, I guess I could do another political thing. We are building a new nuclear arsenal, and the dying of nuclear war is bad. But according to my religion, Judaism, I'm already dying from the sticker shock. Jesus Christ! So we are spending so much money on nuclear weapons, and you know what? They're not going to last very long. Lockheed Martin is going to be like, this one doesn't come with a charger. I'm sorry. All right, that's enough for political stuff. And all right, so I'm Jew. Do we have any Jews in the crowd tonight? Make some noise. The one CIA agent. Yeah, Jews are like, they're not the type to be like, woo, we're in the house. Because it's like, we've been asked that before. And you fool me once, okay? Buddy? Yeah, I'm a Jewish person, and my mom, super Jewish woman, so she has the Jewish mother mental illness. Like, my brother was arrested more than 20 times, but my mother was like, whenever they brought Alex home, they always said he was so polite. He never resisted arrest, He practically insisted. I'm like, Mom, I got a job at a news show. She's like, well, have you ever been in the news? Alex has, so. All right, let's get out of here on something dirty. Are you guys ready for something dirty? Something slightly dirty, yeah. So, yeah, you guys do that DNA test stuff, that like 23andMe stuff?
Yeah.
No? Yeah. So you discover John Kiriakou is descended from a long line of whistleblowers. Yeah. So, what was your background?
much to my shock, it was a long line of Turks.
Oh, a long line of jerks, yeah. But yeah, they were like in the step, like,
Yeah.
did you hear about Genghis Khan? Like, he totally, is a traitor. Yeah, so my boyfriend did one of those DNA test things. He's ginger, but cute. And he was really excited to get the results back, and it came back as we thought, you know, he's descended from shamrocks and lobsters, we think. And then he said he was 0.1% Jewish. I'm like, wait a second. How did you take this test? He said he spit into a vial and sent it off in the mail. I'm like, all right, considering where your mouth has been, I think you cheated on this test. I mean, he was taking Judaism at very high concentration. All I'm saying is, if he's 0.1% Jewish, I might be like 90% black. For sure. Guys, you were so much fun. I had so much fun talking about the geopolitics of Ukraine, and so much fun. Are you guys ready for your next act? Clap for me. Thank you so much. We have another correspondent from Redacted tonight. He also has a great podcast, Pod Damn America. Check it out. Please give it up for Anders Lee. Put your hands together.
Anders Lee here. Keep it going for Naomi, everybody. It is great to be with you. This is actually my second time at the Tavern, I believe. I was here one other time, like 6 years, 2016, I came here. Yeah, I got hired to do actually some comedy writing. It's one of these shows. I don't think it ever made it to the air. It was called like Steel Dossier. You know, like Colbert Report, one of those types of things, and they wanted me to punch it up, and so I put in a thing about, you know, Trump, who was the president, being, and they loved it. So there you go. Where are you from? Get to know the audience. Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Got someone from Cincinnati. All right. I love Cincinnati. I used to work at a crouton factory. Yeah. Yes, you know which one I'm talking about. Yeah. And where are you from?
DC.
DC. I love the city. Whereabouts?
Tenleytown.
Tenleytown. I love the lettuce in Tenleytown. I have to say. Tenleytown, DC. Amazing lettuce. Because, you know, it's not, I gotta say, not all last year is great. Like around here, it's kind of soggy. You know what I mean? Then you go over to like, you know, Petworth, and it's like crisp, but it's too crisp. You know, it's like, you know what I mean? Tenleytown's the right amount of crispness level. Where are you from, sir?
New York for the moment.
New York for the moment. I love New York at all moments. Actually, New York is great. I love the Vinaigrette Festival. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. They get all the vinaigrette distributors that come to New York City from the Northeast. They do vin shots. It's a lot of fun. And where are you from, man? Okay. In the stretch. Okay. Where are you from? I'll come back to you. That's all right. My friend in the striped sweater, where are you from?
Montreal.
I used to work at a crouton factory in Montreal.
Sure you
It's a small world. All right, my dear, where are you from?
Well, I'm from the Tavern Inn.
Ah.
I'm a matriarch of this thing, but I do have to mention something. Were you actually here when the dossier was?
That was actually a joke. I know it didn't get it didn't get laughs, but it was technically a joke. Yeah, I'm sure. I would love to chat with you about it after the show. Okay. Wow. Imagine that. So where are you from in terms of like cities?
I was born in Wisconsin,
Oh,
educated in Wisconsin and matured in Washington.
okay.
More than you want to know.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been to Wisconsin actually.
Anyone go to Wisconsin? I've heard about Wisconsin. Yeah. I've heard it's kind of a soup state. All right. I got it. See, this is strange for me because I'm on a political comedy show. My stand-up is I'm too stupid to make my stand-up political. I need Putin to tell me what to say, and then that's how I do my job. But my stand-up is very dumb. But I will, I guess, try to add a political valence to each joke. That last one was actually a metaphor for globalization. Let's say that. Moving on, but some of you actually thought that was serious. No, it's just jokes. I am actually born here, but I lived in Minnesota as a teenager. It's where my folks live now. My dad lives there. He's a voiceover artist, which is a great job for him because he's one of these people who just talks like this all the time. That is his natural speaking voice in day-to-day conversation. Like he talks that way to people, like in the grocery store. He will address you in this manner. I went home to visit a little while ago, and instead of like most people would just say, like, yeah, I'll pick you up at 12:30. He says, I will greet you at noon. One time we were watching the Minnesota Vikings, American football, and there's a fumble in the fourth quarter. Not a good thing. He gets very upset. But instead of cussing at the TV, his response just goes, this is not a well-oiled machine. An actual human being said that unscripted. Very strange. The anti-drug talk was very awkward with him. Anyone get the anti-drug talk growing up? Anybody give it? Okay, yeah. I think it's kind of not a good idea to do it because you can't really relate to your kids about drugs. It's just there's an intergenerational thing, right? And it has to do with the slang because every generation has different slang for different drugs. And when my dad sat me down, I had no idea what he was talking about with some of the slang he was dropping. I remember him going like, "Hey, there's kids are gonna try and peer pressure you. They're gonna say things. They're gonna say things like." Listen, Duke. You want to rumble with the vibe? Well, you better know how to jive. Come on, cat, you won't get sick with a little pinch of that pixie brick. This dope's no joke, it'll take you to the moon. Gals and gents, they all will swoon. So roll up your sleeve and give that on the slap. It'll take to a needle like a tree takes to sap. Dig it. I was like, I think they're just gonna ask if I want to try weed. Political joke here. Political joke. I think marijuana should be legal. Anybody else? Yes. But hear me out. For 99.9% of the population, should still be illegal for me. Okay. I should not be allowed to do it. I get crazy on weed, but I used to smoke it all the time. I was a huge stoner. But I was like a productive stoner, you know what I mean? Productive stoner, like I get stuff done, you know? Productive stoner, also known as being delusional. You know, I would like get high and then send an email and then spend the rest of the day feeling really good about that email. Be like, all the numbers in the email were correct. I had the punctuation perfect. I signed off with salutations. It's a creative choice. It'd be the only thing I would do that day. Very bad for me. But one thing, I still miss it sometimes. One thing I don't miss are joint circles. Anybody here smoke joints? You stand in a circle, you pass a joint around, right? And there's a rule. You're supposed to do puff, puff, pass, right? You take 2 puffs, and then you pass the joint along. You know what I mean? But you get at least one person in every joint circle who's like, puff, talk for 5 minutes, puff, talk for 9 more minutes, puff, puff, pass. Like they will hand you the joint eventually, but not before you get their thoughts on Rick and Morty. I don't know if that's the right reference. Let me try it again.
They will hand you the joint eventually, but not before they give you their thoughts on Seinfeld. No? Okay. And they think everybody's captivated by whatever they're saying because people are watching them, right? But we're not really listening to what they're saying. We're just kind of like dogs to a tennis ball track and getting ready for the pass because they're talking with the joint in their hand, making their joint point, and it's very frustrating. Tell you this: anyone want to debate the metric system right now? Let's not. We can do that. Let's see. Controversial. This is controversial. So a lot of people don't believe me when I say this. But technically, and I stress technically here, because I don't really know what any of it means, but technically, on paper, I have autism. And I know some of you are like, that is impossible. You're way too charming for that to be the case. How can that be? Your shirt is, oh no, my shirt is not tucked in, so maybe that should be a clue. But here's the thing, I don't have the current version. I was diagnosed in the 90s when it meant a different thing. Like now it means you're good at math and stuff, you know? I had the 90s version of autism, which just meant you were like a little kid who liked the taste of keys. That's what it used to be, you know? Anybody who's dumb, white, and weird, you got the A word slapped on you. That's how it goes. But it is a weird thing. My parents, for a while, were curious about vaccines, right? They don't think of themselves as anti-vaxxers, but they are like anti-vax curious, right? And I understand where they're coming from. I don't know the capital T truth on it, but I understand why you would want to think that because it's nice to be able to blame an external factor instead of your own shitty DNA. You know, like my mom would bring me to out there doctors. Some of them were brilliant, but they're on like interesting stuff. But they tell her like, yeah, it's definitely the vaccines that are making your son a moron. Yeah, there's nothing to do with your 100% Irish American lineage and the generations of inbreeding in your background. Thank you. We got one person laughing embarrassedly. DC, who here is excited about the DC mayoral election? Well, I tell you this, it's a historic election. I don't know if you know about this, but there's a distinct possibility that for the first time, Washington, D.C. will get a mayor who is white. It's never happened before. All right? Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what could happen. Well, hear it out, though, because by the first white mayor, I mean there are two black guys with the last name one. I don't know if I should help or not with the race. I don't think it'd be a good look to have me going around like, vote white, you know. Probably not a good idea. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, this has been a great audience. And on a serious note, going to transition. All right, all right, now we can be, I can be like a leader here. Thank you all so much for being out. This is a really important event. As you know, as you all know, there are wars that happen every day, right? But there's a war right now that the U.S. government has a direct stake in, and because of that, the right to dissent is under attack. The right to just do journalism is under attack. Julian Assange's case is more relevant than ever. So thank you all for being here, and please keep up the fight. And let's transition back into Funny Bone. Help me bring up your next comedian, the very funny, the one and only. He's unredacted tonight. He's written for CBS Comedy Central. Give a hand for Joshua Gott. You for Anders Lee.
Yeah, I'm one of the other correspondents on Redacted tonight. If you want to watch Redacted tonight, you can watch it online, or you can watch it where it airs Russian Television America. Weird time to be on Russian Television America. People are mad at me personally. I don't find it very fair. I had a Tinder date cancel on me. That's true. A Tinder date cancel on me because I'm on a comedy show on RT America. Yeah, that's how I felt, you know. And she was hot. I'm going to a breakup, you know. It was bullshit. She has a boyfriend, and she's E&M. Young people don't know what that means. Ethically non-monogamous. I'll tell you what that means. It means that shit was in the bag. That's what that means. So, and I lost out on that. So, if any of you very patriotic Americans in this audience are questioning my allegiance, just know that no one in this city is more mad at Russia right now than I am. Okay? Fuck that shit, dude. You think you hit out of your poop? He's cock blocking me, bro. I'm getting cock blocked by the Kremlin. It's fucked up, you know, turning me into a war hawk. Normally I'm a pacifist, now I'm like, fucking NATO, go in there! I'm sad! I need this! Fucking guy booed. You can feel how you want, bro, but don't be a loser who's booing a joke. Yeah, I'm doing comedy up here. Boo! Yes, whoever booed should feel ashamed and a loser for booing a comedy. A joke. This is nice intimate audience 20 feet away from me. This is good. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna tell a story about my parents' marriage. Now, before I get started, I need to know, as an audience, how do y'all feel about arranged marriage? Respond by either cheering or booing my culture. Wow. No cheers or boos, just uncomfortable white guilt laughter, which I appreciate that. I love white guilt. I collect it. It's one of my favorite currencies. I got out of Bitcoin. I'm in white guilt now. It's going up. It's going up. It's a good place. Good time to invest. Yeah, look, my parents had an arranged marriage. Okay, but it's not crazy. It's not like Bollywood movies. I promise. It's not a forced thing. Oh, it is. Pakistan is a country that's more community-oriented than individual-oriented. So marriage is really more about families coming together than individuals. So marriage, two families coming together, and one result of that is marriages have deeper wells of support systems, larger family backing, and you get very low rate of divorce, very low rate of children born of divorce, and very low rate of mass shootings. Now, I don't know if that's related. No children divorced, no mass shootings. It feels related. I'm not a statistician. Causation, correlation, I know it's not always, but it's just a fact. Pakistan, no children of divorce, no mass shootings. Taliban doesn't count. Not relevant. Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. It's rude if you bring that up to me. So my parents meet, see if they like each other, and one of the first questions my mom asked my dad, she goes, "Are you religious?" Because my mom is totally anti-religion, not what the typical Muslim life, and it was rare for a woman to be that way openly in Pakistan back in the day. Now, luckily for my mom, my dad happened to be a weed-smoking hippie, run around the streets of Karachi, Pakistan, reading Bertrand Russell with an afro, looking just like the brown Bob Ross. 6'1". We're done well here in DC 2022, to be honest, but whatever. It's my time now. But it worked out. They fell for each other. They got married. They moved to America. They had the adorable immigrant family. I'm a little baby. During that time, my dad's best friend is visiting him from Pakistan. They get in a motorcycle accident together, a bad one. Yeah, my dad's friend dies in the accident. My father survives, but that near-death experience gives him a new perspective on life, starts appreciating new things, becomes a newly humbled, faithful, Muslim-ass man. And yeah, my mom had a strange reaction. My mom didn't know how to feel about that. At my dad's friend's funeral, everyone was there, somber, giving him condolences. My mom was just in the back, just like, "We had a deal, motherfucker." Right? She was mad. She was pissed off at my dad's newfound faith you know, and I believe in a higher power. She was angry and she wanted to leave my dad. Her whole life trajectory has been transformed. She wanted to get a divorce, but she didn't. She stayed with him. The reason why she didn't get a divorce is very interesting, actually, is because she loved me. Cultural thing, y'all wouldn't understand. But my mom loved me. So she didn't get divorced. Wow, no laugh. A lot of children are divorced in the songs. I can feel the pain. Look, I'm sorry. I apologize. Please don't shoot up this hotel. I know how y'all get. There we go. There we go. So then all of a sudden it's a Muslim family, right? I grew up, I'm raised Muslim, everything my mom didn't want. And, you know, what they tell me is that mom is just less religious than dad. They don't tell me the truth, that she's against all of this. And so I grew up a little Muslim boy until I get to my teen years. I started realizing I don't think I believe in God or religion. And so we have a close family. I feel like I owe it to them to tell them the truth, sit them down, which is a weird move, but that's just what I did. And I sat them down to tell them I don't believe in God. Very scary for anyone. I'm very afraid of their reaction. But to my surprise, their reaction, instead of anger, all it was my mom turning to my dad, like, aha! In your face! In your face! Like, my mom is Dave Chappelle. And she is. She's very edgy, very funny. Bit of a transphobe. It's kind of a problem, but immediately our family dynamic is transformed overnight, right? Because before we were a Muslim family. Now, just dad's bitch ass is Muslim. Me and mom, we're free thinkers. We're too smart. That's what we think, at least. You know? And hey, don't cheer for us not being Muslim. That's Islamophobic, actually. I can talk about this. You can't get too excited about it. I know my comedy's tricky. It's hard what to know how to do. But yeah, just try your best. So where am I? Yeah. My mom's life did not turn out the way she planned or wanted, but what she got after this moment is that from now on, she got to be as openly and brutally passive aggressive as she wanted to my dad for believing in God. Which, yes, that is an absurd thing to have to grow up with. I remember it would come out in weird ways. It came out one time. I remember this so clearly. I was asking my mom if I could get some pizza for dinner. I was asking for a little bit of money. I was still a teenager. My mom was like, all right, Josh, we can go. I was like, all right, Mom, I'm going to get a pepperoni pizza and I'm going to get a cheese pizza. And my mom was like, well, who's the cheese pizza for? I was like, it's for Dad because he doesn't eat pork because he's Muslim, Mom. My mom was like, ugh. I was like, ugh, he's up 1.6 billion people, Mom. She's like, what are the 1.5 wasn't for your dad? I'm like, that's not accurate, first of all. Not how numbers work, Mom. She's like, where's your father? Is he praying right now? Like, my mom always thought my dad was praying when she needed him, like timing it out on purpose. She thought that. She's like, if he's in the room praying right now, I'm gonna go slap him in the face. I'm like, you can't do that, Mom. Why not? Because that's a hate crime? Please don't hate crime Dad, Mom. No child should have to say it. You can also say, Mom, most people will be shocked to find out how much Islamophobia is in the Khan household. A little surprising. Out of all of our houses in our neighborhood in Texas, it was this one. I really had issues. And y'all have no idea, like, one, my mom brought in Islamophobia into the household, obviously, because I said my dad's Muslim faith, but also my father, devout Muslim, he brought in Islamophobia into our house. How? My dad voted for Trump. Yeah, all correct reactions. Yeah, some fears, some loose gas. Yeah, my devout Muslim dad voted for the Muslim banned guy. And really to me what this says, it's just really less of a reflection on my dad, and more a reflection on how deep the hatred for Hillary Clinton is in this country. My dad was like, fuck it, just ban me, bro. I am not voting for them. I'm like, all right, you fucking weirdo, vote for Trump then. And he did. My dad is a Muslim Republican, devout both. He worships Allah and the free market. And he does devout, and that comes out in weird ways too. It came out Summer of 2020. Remember summer of 2020? It was a weird summer. At that time, it was the George Floyd protest. Sorry, it's long COVID. I'm how I am now. But this was, summer 2020, Brooklyn, the George Floyd protests. And it was a crazy time, out in the streets every day for weeks. And during that time, I'm on the phone with my dad. I talk to my dad on the phone regularly. My dad mentions to me, very casually, that he's getting a gun for the first time in his life. I was like, why, Dad? Why at 68 years old are you now for the first time getting a gun? And my dad tells me very confidently, he goes, well, son, once Trump wins the re-election and BLM protesters storm my neighborhood in the suburbs of Texas, I thought they would carpool out to him. I don't know what my dad thought. He was like, I just want to be able to protect me and your mother. I was like, all right, Dad, where do I begin? Let's start here. Look, Dad, I get you choose to be Republican. You can choose to do that. But that doesn't change the fact that you are not white. Okay? This made-up fantasy that you believe in, this one actually does not apply to you. Like, in this made-up world that you believe in, BLM protesters, right? They're going to storm your neighborhood in the suburbs of Texas. They're going to carpool out to your house. They're going to kick down your door. Then what? They're going to see your dark brown Pakistani ass. They're going to go next door to your white neighbors who don't like you, by the way, Dad. Figure that out, too. Side quest. That'll be another day. Just understand that this fantasy is not for you. Understand you are not watching Fox News. You are eavesdropping on Fox News. Tucker Carlson not talking to you, Dad. He doesn't like you. Put down the remote. My dad's gonna show up when he's BLM counter protests, like with his homies, and he's gonna get murked by his own comrades. And then we're gonna have to protest for him, just like justice for Uzzer, I guess. Right. All right, y'all were great. Look. There's nothing I can say about Julian Assange that hasn't already been said by people much smarter than me, but it's just another real terrible injustice. And hopefully we can help shift the narrative a little bit if we can. But thanks for listening. Y'all are great. Have a good night.
All right, Jennifer, come on. Jennifer, don't go anywhere. This business, all right? Jaffer Khan, and I want to thank Naomi Carvana. We got more. And I want to thank Anders Lee. Steve Brown thought it was Anders Lee. He's the one that made the beautiful poster. Steve Brown with all the pictures. And Paula may be one here. Paula Isala, who came all the way down from Boston with Assange Defense Boston. Give her a round of applause. All the way down. Just like all the way up from North Carolina at her own expense is my engineer and editor, Kelly Lane, who came all the way up to live stream. Give her a round of applause. Other people have been involved in this. My good friend, been there for years, at the hard-hitting Courage Foundation, and that is Nathan Fuller in the back of the room. And then I want to, before I continue, I must acknowledge my friends in New York, NYC Free Assange. When we first started this event this time, like we did the last two, they were the first ones there. That's Bernadette Evangelist and Chuck Slack, who deserve a lot of credit because they started that whole movement in New York City Free Assange. They started doing it for years, and they were very generous in supporting this entire comedy series and everything else. So say hello to they're watching. I know, I love both of you. Bernadette and Chuck. Give them a round of applause. And we got more to go. We got more. I want to do a little tune. Let me do this with Fritzy, who was a matriarch here. And I went to her 4 months ago and I said, Fritzy, we'd like to do an event here for Assange. She said, yes, right here. And it's because of Fritzy that we're Hilton or, at the Waldorf Astoria or Trump Tower here. Thank you, Fritzy. Fritzy's a matriarch and she's given over control to the employees here. We wrote a song about her with, what's it, Carol Channing. Well, hello, Fritzy. Well, hello, Fritzy. It's so nice to see you back where you belong. You're looking sweaty. Fritzy. All right. I know you like my family. She wants me to sing the song from Yankee Doodle Dandy. I'm the kid with all the candy, I'm the Yankee Doodle Dandy. Not that one. The other one. It was Mary, plain as a day could be. But with propriety, society will say, Marie. It was Mary, long before the fashions changed. And if there's something there that sounds so square, it's a grand old name. That was it. All right, that's for you, Chris. That's my old hack act. All right. That went well in Vegas, 1975. By the way, thank you once again, Chaplain. Yeah. See, like, and you, you mush. Maybe I'll. All right, we have another singer coming up. You'll never know how much I love you. Rick's, this is like your Rick. This really is like Rick's Cafe Americana. This place in DC. What you have here is where everybody goes. And I'm telling you, Gabriel Shipton, the German legislators here, Nathan comes there. Everybody's here because you guys have risked your whole situation by making this place available as ground zero for the Assange movement. I appreciate your commitment, Fritzy. This really is. Bogart. Yes, let's get him out of jail. All right, let's try to get Leonard Peltier and me out of jail. But we must save Julian Assange right now because this attack on him is an attack. It's an insurrection by the government. It really is an insurrection. Talk about January 6th or everything, but this is an attack on the most important foundation pillar of this democracy, which is the First Amendment. So what they are doing, it's perfidious what the government is doing to Julian Assange. They are destroying this democracy if, in fact, they extradite him here and they quell dissent, they quell the First Amendment, most importantly, because that is the most important facet of this democracy is the First Amendment. So they are committing, as far as I'm concerned, this guy, Merrick Garland, if you take the money that we put into this prosecution and put it into building homes in this country, we could solve the homeless problem in this country. But they are spending $500 million to repress dissent and repress the First Amendment. You absolutely laid it out, and that's why it is fundamentally so important. But you know who can say this better than I can? Before we go to the last, we got Roger Waters and Katie Halper coming up. But before we go to that, and we got Lucy Murphy, just to reiterate and really crystallize what is going on with Assange. I'd like to bring up someone who's the last person I know who visited him a few months back and has been a legal advisor to Julian Assange, and is a legendary civil rights attorney and award-winning civil rights attorney who can give us a few moments of what he is going through now before we continue, and that is Margaret Kunster. Give her a round of applause.
So, I don't know really what to talk about, but what I want to do is do something cheerful. Because I think that the anti-war movement is going to save Julian Assange, and Julian Assange is going to save the anti-war movement. And that's gonna come together, and it's gonna come together because I'm an old person and I remember. And I remember the Vietnam War. And I remember that the war was fought obviously to preserve the economics of the country, and had no real reason for anything. I mean, they told this story that there was creeping communism coming down, and no one could believe that. I mean, it was just so wild, it was impossible. But we were successful against that war, and we were successful fighting that war because we had the information, we had journalists internationally constantly telling everybody what was happening. And we had the draft, which made people feel that it was their personal experience that was happening. So we were successful on those two grounds. And guess what happened after that? Wow. No more journalists allowed to be near war, and no more draft. Okay. So we're getting beyond this now, and we have Julian Assange who reveals exactly what is happening in wartime. We know now what the story is. He's told us we have the information and we can use it. We have the information if we use it in the right way. If we bring out that these wars are created to make people rich and powerful at the same time that 1 in 6 children goes to bed hungry. Now, these are significant events that we have to push forward, and Julian is there to tell us about it because Julian has revealed what wars are about, the lies, and we need to pierce through this, and Julian has done this. He's done this for the first time since Vietnam. He's explained this. And I want to just point out, as a last thing, we now are suddenly, and I know this is going to come back at me, but suddenly we're getting pictures of wars. We haven't had any pictures of what went on in Afghanistan. We haven't had any pictures of what went on anywhere with the 17 wars that the U.S. has fought since 9/11. Nothing. We just don't know a thing about them. Why is that? Because if they let it out, if they let Julian Assange out, if he could talk about wars, then we'd have an anti-war movement that was successful. So we have to silence Julian Assange. We have to keep him in jail because the only wars that the United States will let us know about are wars that they approve of. So thank you.
Margie, I'm always thinking about you, Margie. I think the world about you. You don't know that. Jesus, I finally come right into it. All right, where are you going, John?
Straight over
To
here.
the John. John's going to the John. We'll wait for you. I'm joking.
Don't.
He's gonna go do. That's what I would do. Oh, come on. That's such a serious crowd tonight. Loosen up. I tried cocaine one time for 25 years. I didn't like it. All right? Steve Brown is here tonight. Thank you, Steve. Covert Action Magazine. Steve Brown. Is Lou Wolf here? Lou Wolf. Let me tell you something about Lou Wolf. Lou Wolf I met way back in '86. I think it was in Boston. There was a benefit for Covert Action Magazine. They were the only ones around back then. Covert Action Magazine and Lies of Our Times, which is published by, what was the name of it was Sheridan, what was it called, Lou?
Ellen Ray and Bill Shepard.
I know who they are. I know Ellen Ray and Bill Shepard. Lies of Our Time. I know we called it Luke, but the Covert Action Magazine, what an incredible publication way back then. And it must have gotten a lot of heat for it, but it's back now. And it's you can go to covertactionmagazine.com and Steve is involved and Lou's involved and they're back. So and I really appreciate it. I did. You remember the benefit? I did. Way back in '86, I just got back from Nicaragua, where I used to do my act in front of the U.S. Embassy there. I called it Bates Motel. I used to do my Reagan impression there in '86. I did well back then in like 3 areas: the Upper West Side of Manhattan, the Lower East Side, and Havana. That was it. I didn't go over anywhere else. Yes, that was back then. If you recall, I did this in front of the U.S. Embassy. Reagan, yesterday, a C-123 transport plane en route from Andrews Air Force Base to famine-stricken Ethiopia accidentally strayed 3,000 miles off course towards Sandino. The plane, which was equipped with foodstuff disguised as AK-47s, M16s, and grenade launchers, was cut down somewhere over Sandinista. And we'll have more disinformation as it becomes available.
Eugene Hasselhoff.
Yes, of course. What is this, Jeopardy? I give you the. And this I did on the Tonight Show. Can you believe it? I said, what about Nicaragua? This is Reagan. I asked, what about the supporting a secret war against the Sandinistas to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras? He says, well, you take all these countries down there: El Salvador, Costa Rica, Guatemala. Now, you line these countries up diagonally, and you will see that they, in fact, run into the state of Illinois. I was born and raised in the state of Illinois. I can recall when I was a kid, going to the county fair with exhibits and livestock and first prize. And there are those who still complain about the fate of Julius and Ed. So as we tackle these budget deficits, and I went on and I got like this standing ovation, and I started talking about Reagan's staff and cabinet. I did Nicholson. I said, you look at the staff and cabinet, it reminds you of that scene in the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where Nicholson's on the boat and he introduces all the guys from the asylum to the guy on the pier, and he says, we're from the state mental institution. This is Dr. Weinberger. This is Dr. Meese. This is Dr. Casey. Famous Dr. Casey. William Casey died back in '88. If you heard the brain from his tumor. Something like that. And I said something about Jane Kirkpatrick, and I said, you look at Jane Kirkpatrick and analyze some of her statements, you have to ask yourself seriously, did Eva Braun die in that bunker in 1945? And that was it. I'm not supposed to make Nazi references. We never do or haven't since. There's nothing like it. I wish they'd stop using Nazi references. Read William Schreier's book, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, and see the kind of diabolical, unlike any era from 33, 38, 39 to 1940. Nothing like it. You can't make references to Nazis, and nobody in the media should. Whatever you think about Ukraine, this is not what the Nazis did. Just take a look at Treblinka and all of the other concentration camps, the wholesale industrial murder of Jews and gypsies. And 2 million Russians were killed, soldiers. There's nothing like the Third Reich. There's nothing before or after. And so it cheapens, it lessens the sinister nature of what the Nazis did. There's never been anything like it before, and it hasn't been anything like it since. No matter what you think, take a look, read that book. When I was in 6th grade, I saw Night and Fog. They made us in 6th grade watch that documentary, Night and Fog. You should see that. So this is a great way to do a comedy show, talking about Night and Fog. I know. All right. This is Steve. I want to thank everybody. We have Lucy is here. Lucy wanted to follow like Nazi references right now. It really is a propitious time to come on right now as we're talking about that. But we have Roger we still have two videos that you're not going to see, right, Kelly? You're only gonna be able to see it at home. Roger Waters the other day did this incredible tune for the Belmores Tribunal, which Margie was part of, and Nathan was part of, and Shreko was part of, and Chris Hedges. It was an incredible event at the People's Forum. And Roger was in LA, and he sent them a video to close the night out. Nobody wanted to follow that. So he's gonna close the night out. And that was a great event, but he said, I'm not making you anything special. Use what I gave to the Belmores Tribune. So we're gonna do that, but you're not gonna see it. And you're not gonna see Katie Halbert unless you go to your cell phone.
Well, I could put it up here on the stage, so.
You can?
Yeah, I'll put it
So
up
they
there
can
and
see
turn
it?
it up. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see. But first, we're gonna bring up a couple of weeks back. There was an event, and there's an event tomorrow at 12 noon that Margaret and I are going to speak at, along with Lucy and her chorus in front of the DOJ. So we do whatever we can right now. This, is a lost cause that some people say, but you gotta keep going. And it's, who was it that said lost cause is the only word? It's worth fighting for, except for Winston Churchill, not Gary Oldman. If Gary Oldman was prime minister in 1940 instead of Churchill, they would have won that war in 2 weeks, because if you've seen that speech, The Darkest Hour, that fucking speech at the end, Churchill was not even near it. All right? So, what's the point of this, folks? We're drifting off, and you've had a very easy day. You haven't had to play that hard. So, the one is tomorrow at noon in front of the DOJ. There will be an event at 12 o'clock, and we try to get out there as often as possible, because we got to throw everything we can to save this great journalist, this humanitarian, this truth teller. And anything we can do, we have to do. And I know it's like difficult. I come here, this is like the third time we've done this here. Been at the DOJ 4 or 5 times. You do it, nobody shows up, but you gotta keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. You gotta do what we can, because we have to save him, to save this republic. Seriously, what's left of it. So, has Margaret Ratner spoken yet? I'm kidding. We're gonna bring up right now, Lucy Murphy is gonna do a tune. She's worked with him many times. Lucy, decades. Give her a big round of applause.
Hello. Good evening, Steve Jones. Steve Jones and I were doing gigs in the 70s. We were in kindergarten, right? I want to get you all ready for tomorrow, but I also want to do one of Steve's favorite songs. I was thinking about waiting.
Great.
But none of us are free to,
Get that going?
Yeah. None of us are free if one of us is chained. None of us are free. You better listen, my brother. If you do, you can hear their voices still calling across the years. They are crying across the ocean, they are crying across the land, and they will, till we all come to understand it. None of us are free. 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 If one of us is chained, none of us are free. There are people in darkness, they just can't see the light. If we don't say it's wrong, then that says it's right. We got to feel for each other. Let our brothers know we're in. Got to get the message. Tell
None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. It's a single truth. We all need to see. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. Well, I swear to you, salvation isn't very hard to find. None of us can find it on our own. We got to join together, spirit, heart, and mind. So all the souls who are suffering know they're not alone. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. It's the very heart. It's the very heart. It's the very heart of humanity. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. There are people in darkness, they just can't see the light. If we don't say it's wrong, then that says it's right. We got to feel for each other, let our brothers know we're here. Got to get the message, send it out all loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, one of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. None of us, 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 none of us are free. Some of them. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. 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 If one of us is chained, none of us are free. None of us, 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 none of us are free. None of us, 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 none of us are free.
It's going okay.
One more.
Now, because nobody pays for me to sing these kind of songs, we're gonna do a song that people pay for. Wave. A little Antonio Carlos Jobim. So close your eyes. Oh, that's a lovely way to be. Aware of things your heart alone was meant to see. The fun of
Whenever two can dream a dream together. You can't deny.
She's got a great
Don't
voice.
the rising sea. Don't fight the stars above. And don't fight me.
This really was a musical
The
comedy.
fundamental loneliness goes whenever two can dream a dream together. When I first saw you, the time was made us free. When your eyes met mine, it was eternity. But now you know the wave is on its way to be. Just catch the wave, don't be afraid of nothing. The fundamental loneliness comes whenever two can dream a dream together. You can't deny. Don't try to fight the rising sea. Don't fight the moon, the stars above, and don't fight me. The fundamental loneliness goes whenever you can dream a dream together. Together.
Can you do Ellis Regina?
What can you do, Alice Regina? How can you like this?
Sing a few bars.
Bum, 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 ba-da-da-da-da-da, Opposite Marcos.
I was a master, and I don't know the words.
Yes, that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Oh,
That was beautiful. Oh, come on.
enjoyed it.
I always enjoy you. Give her a big round of applause once again. Lucy Murphy. Wow, what a show. What a show tonight, huh? I'm very disciplined. There's the general manager we have. He doesn't like publicity, but it's because because of him that we've had this wonderful setup tonight. And the matriarch is over here, the general manager of this employee-owned. This is a model for the rest of the world. The Tavern Inn. We couldn't do this anywhere else in DC or New York City, except for that one club that's closing down. I hope this doesn't. Theater 80, St. Mark's, but it was closing before. But this hardworking gentleman who dragged up these two risers. He's the general manager here, and he's the one that got the sound. He's the one that put this together. And I went to Fritzy, and she went to him, and he's been all over this. And that's Dave Ruby. Thank you, Dave Ruby. We got anything special happening after this? People should hang out over there. All right. He's got like a bottle of Latus that we can split 500 ways with a thimble. All right. Or is it cold duck? Or is it ripple? Whatever you have. You have been brilliant. I want to thank everybody tonight. We're going to have Katie Halper coming up, who couldn't make it, but she's going to be on for 5 minutes.
She has a very funny presentation. And the fact is, she is just finishing, that's why I say this so late, so she could see it. And she wanted to be here. She was the very first one. I said, Katie, I'm doing this event. Can you make it? She said, yes. She said, wait a second. 2 weeks later, I have something else to do that day. And she explains it here. But she was coming down on her own to be part of this time. And Roger Waters is in LA, and he sent something to the, as I've said before, the Belmarsh Tribunal, and he said, use that. And so we're going to play the whole thing by him, which they played the other day at the People's Forum from the very beginning. After we play Katie Halper, right?
Yep.
So let's play Katie Halper first, and then we'll go out with Roger Waters, who's been such a boon to this movement, as he has been for every movement. I've said it to him many times. You know, you have Paul Robeson, you have Harry Belafonte, you have Dick Gregory, you have Pete Seeger, and you have Roger Waters. He is in that vein. The guy, the type of person that puts everything into it as an artist in the entertainment business, puts everything into it. He's committed and he doesn't care what the consequences are. And so he is our Dick Gregory, our Paul Robeson, our Harry Belafonte, of Pete Seeger of today. There's no one, there's other activists I know, but no one like Roger, who has put money into every cause that I know, and you know that, Justin. He supports all of it, all right? At a great expense. He doesn't care about the money. And plus, when my little Bianca died, I can't talk about it too upset. He was calling me every day, and he still does. I am getting you the same dog. You're not going to crowdfund. I'm paying for that dog. It's a very expensive dog, Bianca, and he knows how fucked up I've been since her death. So, I'm always ready to cry when I think of Bianca. So let's play Katie Halper, and let's go out with Roger Waters.
Okay, here we go.
Guys, I'm so sorry I can't be there with you in person. Of course, I planned to do that, but I had a family commitment I couldn't get out of. Well, that's not true. The truth is I had a major change of heart after watching MSNBC, CNN, and the rest of the corporate media. I realized that while before I was standing on the side of free press, the First Amendment, Julian Assange, that people like Joe Biden really had a point.
Mitch McConnell says he's a high-tech terrorist. Others say this is akin to the Pentagon Papers. Where do you come down?
I would argue that it's closer to being a high-tech terrorist than the Pentagon Papers.
You know how I knew that Joe Biden had a point? Because he was standing on the side of people like Mike Pompeo.
Individuals such as Julian Assange and Edward Snowden seek to use that information to make a name for themselves. Time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is. A non-state hostile intelligence service.
He was standing on the side of people like Donald Trump.
You're going to talk about WikiLeaks. You had nothing to do with the leaking of those documents. I think it's disgraceful. You do think it's disgraceful? I think this should be like death penalty or something.
So I really wish I could be there with you. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, of course, as you can tell from my heart and exterior. But DC has a special place in my heart. I grew up learning and thinking and hearing a lot about DC. My mom, of course, told me about attending the March on Washington, though I didn't really get that. I thought she had a sleepover with her friend who is a king, King Martin Luther, and that the next morning he told her about a dream that he had. My mom did not actually have a sleepover with Martin Luther King, although, let's be honest, a lot of other women did. But she did come close to having a sleepover with another civil rights leader. He doesn't have as much cred or moral standing as Martin Luther King, but my mom did briefly date Marion Barry, who would later become the mayor of Washington, D.C., before being forced to step down amidst a crack cocaine prostitution scandal. We've all been there, right? The beautiful thing about the story is that he became mayor. Again, he was reelected, which is, I guess, the American dream. Having your mom date Marion Barry, though, is a real waste of a civil rights leader for her to date. Because if she dated someone like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, then whenever I was mad at my dad, I could be like, you're not my father. Dr. King is my father. But it doesn't really work with Marion Barry, as I learned the hard way. I always say out of all the Congress on Racial Equality meetings in all the cities in the world, she had to walk into his. But anyway, back to Julian Assange. You know, I'm really surprised that Joe Biden doesn't have more empathy for Assange because, let's face it, Joe Biden has a lot of empathy.
So the younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. No. I have no empathy for it.
I'm surprised Joe Biden doesn't have more empathy for Julian Assange, though, because they have so much in common. For instance, Julian Assange is locked up. Joe Biden knows that experience far too well because he, too, was locked up for trying to visit Nelson Mandela.
The great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
When I said arrested, I meant I was not able to move. Cops, Afrikaners would not let me go with them, made me stay where I was. I guess I wasn't arrested, I was stopped.
Julian Assange hasn't seen sunlight in years, much like Joe Biden's coal miner relatives who toiled underground in the mine shafts.
My dad used to say, Joey, and I swear to God, when he left Scranton, when coal died, my dad was he was a salesperson. He wasn't a coal miner. My great-grandpa was, but...
I said I had an uncle who was a coal miner. It turned out I didn't have anybody in the coal mines, you know what I mean?
Assange exposed racist imperialist wars, and Joe Biden fought against racism.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes. And we changed attitudes.
When I was about the age of the guy standing over there, I got involved in the civil rights movement.
I was not an activist. I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else.
Julian Assange refused to back down against state and corporate power, and Joe Biden refused to back down from Corn Pop, a bad dude.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off.
This is just a mere sampling of Joe Biden's lies. Believe me, there are a lot more, but I don't want to hog the show, and we don't have all night. But these lies are precisely why Joe Biden, the political establishment, and the corporatist media is engaged in a sadistic vendetta against Julian Assange and an all-out war on the First Amendment and a free press. Because Assange and WikiLeaks expose their corruption, dishonesty, and the blood they have on their hands. People are up in arms about misinformation and disinformation. Well, they should be up in arms about the misinformation and disinformation being spread about Julian Assange. People were up in arms about Trump's attack on the Fourth Estate. They should be up in arms about Joe Biden's attack on the Fourth Estate. When it comes to Julian Assange, we have to reach people who don't already agree with us. When you hear people smearing him, tell them that they're being gullible, jingoistic, McCarthyite pieces of shit. Actually, that's probably not the most persuasive argument. But it's helpful to tell them that their hero, Barack Obama, decided not to pursue Julian Assange because of the so-called New York Times problem, by which we mean that if it was so dangerous for Julian Assange to publish what he published, it was that dangerous for the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, Der Spiegel, El País, etc. to publish that too, and that Barack Obama would have to go after those outlets unless he wanted to look like a total inconsistent, incoherent hypocrite. Tell them that Joe Biden is siding with Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo over Obama. Tell them that they're siding with Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo over Obama. Tell them that we know that the CIA discussed killing and kidnapping Julian Assange. Tell them that we know that the main witness against Julian Assange is not only a diagnosed sociopath, sex offender, embezzler, but someone who admitted that he lied. Tell them that they're on the wrong side of history, but that it's not too late. We can still free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange.
And Topanga Canyon in LA. We did this on Wednesday. But we're really, really proud and happy to be with you all and the People's Forum and for the Belmont Tribunal. Right, hang on a minute. I've just got a couple of words to say before we sing a song for everybody. This is something I came across recently, and I wrote it in October 2015. And it was a sort of open letter to Shaka Arma. For those of you who don't know, Shaka's an English bloke who was locked up in Guantanamo for 14 years. Anyway, I finished a letter I wrote to Shaka Arma saying this. Shaka Arma, you are a man of incalculable spirit and courage, and doubtless also faith. Your indomitable resistance in the face of remorseless persecution lights a corner of the dark. We owe you an enormous debt of gratitude. Welcome home, my friend. With great respect and love, Roger Waters. Well, Substitute the words Shaka and Amar with the words Julian and Assange, and then you get words I had wished to utter years ago and hope to be able to utter tonight or tomorrow morning or the next morning, but let's let this drag on. Here's how it sounds. Julian Assange, you are a man of incalculable spirit and courage, and doubtless also faith. Your indomitable resistance in the face of remorseless persecution lights a corner of the dark. We owe you an enormous debt of gratitude. Welcome home, my friend, with great respect and love. And then I signed my name. So let us prevail upon the ruling class to do the right thing and set Julian Assange free. Shall we sing the song? So you think you can tell heaven from hell and blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel ray? A smile from a veil. Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts? Hot ashes for trees and hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change. And did you exchange a walk-on part in the war for a lead role in a cage? Just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fear. And I wish that you were here. You were here, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fear.
Kate Halpern brought water back to home. What a shipment. I want to thank everybody that spoke tonight at this order. I think it was John Kiriakou. Thank you, John. Justin Radak, thank you so much. And then it was Eleanor Goldfield, also known as Emma Golden. Thank you so much. And then it was Lee Camp. Thank you, Lee Camp. Is anybody who wants to go next? Huh? After Lee Camp, it was Naomi Carvani. And it was Anders Lee. And it was after Anders Lee, it was Jaffer Khan. It was Margaret Kunstler. And then it was Lucy Murphy. Thank you. Oh, did I leave anybody out? Oh, wait, it was Marianne Williamson after. And there was so much distraction. But she went on after Lee Camp. All right, so thank you. We're all unified here in supporting, putting on life support the First Amendment by supporting Julian Assange. And we have to continue the fight. And that's why we are here tonight. We're unified in Fritzy. There's a lot of people in line for that restaurant. And I want to thank Kelly Lane, coming up all the way from North Carolina to this night. She and I will be joining John Pilcher this Friday for Assange came up with freedom of speech. And I want to thank others out there, Peter Alexis. There's a woman in Austria, I forgot her name.
It's N like Nancy.
Evelyn, thank you, Evelyn, for your support. I want to thank Nathan Lane, and Nathan Fuller.
The number 2.
Nathan Fuller, thank you so much, Nathan, for the work that you've done with my friends in New York City, NYC, Free Assange.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Paula Nisala, my good friend over here, over there, in the tuxedo. It's Gerald Ulysses Brent. It's Dave Ruby, Fritzy, thank you, and Ford Fisher. If you ever need any work in this city, go to Ford Fisher. Ford Fisher does live streaming, does the lighting tonight, and it's great. Thank you for it. I hope the show will getting cash. And who else do I have to? You know, Steve Brown, fell asleep here. It's okay. Same thing, watching Bill Fletcher yesterday. I always fall asleep. Everybody else, and I want to thank, I already thanked you, Lucy. That was really good. And I want to thank Code Pink. Code Pink. Medea Benjamin, the granddaughter today, and the granddaughter yesterday, and she couldn't make it. And I want to thank Angela Richter, who was calling the comment. She had to get back Ukraine. I want to start calling it the Ukraine again. I can't say Ukraine. I say that Ukraine. Like people say you say it, but you don't say that Ukraine. I want to say that Ukraine. You gotta have something with a T before you get to something with a U. Right? Seriously. You gotta have a constant before you get to a vowel. Ukraine. And everybody else here, thank you for your kind indulgence tonight and showing up. If I left anybody out, I'm sorry. I'm getting old. I'm tired. I will be there tomorrow afternoon in front of the DOJ protesting Garland's attack on our democracy. It's an attack on our democracy that's happening right now. I blame my old Confederate in Toledo, Texas, by the name of Lady Lupe, who I worked with, and she was part of the Toledo 46 legal team. And now she's supporting the suppression of the First Amendment and the end of our democracy. This is perfidious, and we have to stand up against it. And basically, that's enough highfalutin rhetoric. What would you like to say? All right, listen, we're all going to go in the back there. We got a couple of bottles of what is it, Ripple? Red Apple? Let's we're going to hang out here. We're going to hang out here, socialize, network. I want to thank Lee Camp, and Eleanor. They're back there. You want to get pictures with them and anybody else. Go in the back there. I'm not going home. Yeah. Wake up, Steve. And you, this wonderful musician, and thank you very much, Steve. And thank you, Roger. And thank you, Kate. You're a brilliant little comment. Thank you. I'm ready to go. This is the Science Countdown to Freedom. And everybody else that's been involved tonight. Good night. Everybody head to the bar. Thank you.